Hey babe. As you can see, I look exhausted. I'm still in bed, I don't have my equipment, and this is the absolute worst possible place to film a video. But there's a good reason for that. And that is simply because yesterday was by far the worst day of my trip so far. Overall, not that bad. It's not like I almost died or anything, but it was still pretty interesting. So, I wanted to renew my room at the current hostel that I was staying at. Unfortunately, they ran out of room. So, I ended up booking some really crappy hostel for one night just until I could find something better. And turns out it was as crappy as I was expecting. So, I had to check out of my current hostel at around 11 a.m. And the other place I had to wait till 3 p.m. to check in. But I'm like, hey, usually the hostels you can just go beforehand, leave your bag there, and then you can just do whatever in the day, come back later and check in then. So I go ahead, look on Google Maps, head over to the hostel, and I get there and I'm like, okay, there's no indication. This doesn't look like a hostel. What the hell is this? So luckily there was a woman across the street, so I just asked her like, hey, I'm looking for this hostel. She points like, yeah, it's that door. So I'm like, okay. So I go to open it and it's locked. I'm like, okay. So I knock, no one answers. Knock again, still no answer. Do that a couple more times. Finally, I'm like, all right, I guess I'll call them. So I go on the app I used to book the hostel, call them, and they answer. Luckily, someone spoke English. Otherwise, if it was only in Spanish, I would have been screwed. So, anyway, after a brief discussion, I discover that, first of all, I can only check in after 3, and I can't leave my bag. So, I'm like, okay, what do I do now? And the only thing I could do is go back to the other hostel that I was staying at before that and be like, hey, can I leave my bag here for a while until I can check in at the other place? Luckily, they were okay. So after doing that, I meet up with a girl that I met at that hostel, and we just end up going for a walk, chilling for a bit, then come back, chill with a few other people, and eventually we're like, oh, okay, cool. We want to like meet up at this bar or whatever, like grab something to eat, chill for the night. So I go to the hostel and check in. Now I can actually finally check in, although the person that's there is only speaking Spanish, so I have to kind of figure things out. It's not the easiest, but we figured everything out, got everything I needed, the room, the key, locked all my stuff away, then head up to meet everyone else. The rest of the evening was pretty good. We hung out, had fun, talked with a group of other people, and it was a pretty nice thing. The only issue came back when it was around, I think, 11:30 at night, something like that. I went back to my hostel and tried opening the door with the key, and the key didn't work. Like it turned, but the door wouldn't open. So I kept trying and trying a bunch of different times. I knocked, no one answered. I called, no one answered. So I'm like, crap, I'm pretty much stuck outside. I'm like, I could go to the other hostel I was at, but there's no place, so there's nothing they can do for me. I tried calling one of the guys that I met earlier that day because he's like, "Oh yeah, I had to rent a or a hotel room for a night, and there's two beds in it." So I'm like, "Oh well, if he's still awake, then maybe I can crash in his room." I try calling him, he doesn't answer, so I'm like, "Okay, I guess he went to bed already." So I go ahead, Google a few other hostels to try to figure out if any of them are open and if there's place or room left. So find one not too far away, walk all the way over there, and I'm like, "Okay, there's no hostel here. What the hell?" So I start going back thinking like, all right, I guess I'll go back to my previous hostel, try to see if I can like crash in a hammock or something for the night, like whatever. Worst comes to worst, I stay up in the park or something. I don't know. Luckily, on the way back, I turn the corner. It's like, oh, okay, the hostel is there. It's just wrongly indicated on Google Maps. So managed to head in. The place is still open. I'm lucky. Of course, the guy only speaks Spanish, but I managed to explain, hey, I need a room for the night. Managed to get a room. Luckily, the dorm is empty, so I was the only one there. The downside is the bed was super uncomfortable, and in fact, it's the bed I'm lying in right now. Super thin, super crappy. I barely slept, I don't know, maybe 3, 4 hours. And now I'm pretty much just chilling here until it's late enough that I can go back to the other hostel that I paid for that I didn't stay at and say, like, okay, you gave me a key that doesn't work. I want my money back and I just want to get the hell out of there and go to the other better hostel that I booked for tonight. So anyway, that's why I look exhausted. That's why I don't have my equipment, and that is why I have nothing else to say because my brain doesn't work. Anyway, Just wanted to share that. Hope that you in the future watching this are having a way better day than I am. But it's all part of the adventure, right? Anyway, check back in later.